A coincidence too strange to be just a coincidence. About 15 years ago, I went through an awful breakup, the kind that turns your world upside down. In the aftermath, I decided to get a tattoo on my foot with the phrase, Alice volat proprius. At the time, it felt personal, a quiet reminder to myself, she flies with her own wings. Years passed, and life moved on. Then, out of nowhere, I unexpectedly relocated to Oregon. It wasn't planned. I had lived in Ohio my whole life, and Oregon had never been on my radar. But circumstances aligned in a way I never could have predicted, and suddenly, there I was, living in a state I had never even thought about before. One evening, I was on a date when the topic of tattoos came up. I casually mentioned mine, and my date's response stopped me in my tracks. You know that's Oregon's state motto, right? I had no idea. It was a weird, serendipitous moment, almost like I had unknowingly marked my own fate years before it unfolded. But the real shocker came 2 years later. I was in San Francisco, celebrating my birthday with my boyfriend and daughter. We had made our way to the top of Lombard Hill, where we stood next to a group of girls, all chatting and laughing. At some point, I glanced down, at my feet, at the road I don't even remember, and that's when I saw it. One of the girls had the exact same tattoo. Same phrase, same spot, same font. I couldn't contain my excitement. I pointed it out immediately, and before I could even process the coincidence, one of her friends turned to her and said, "You have to tell her the story." And that's when things got truly bizarre. She had the exact same story as me. A bad breakup, a move to Oregon from Ohio, never intending to live there, never even considering it, until life unexpectedly led her there. And just like me, she only found out after moving that her tattoo was the state's motto. She even joked that it was a sign she was meant to be there. For a long moment, we just stared at each other, processing this impossible coincidence. Even now, 10 years later, I still think about her. I wish I had exchanged info, but in that moment, I was too overwhelmed by how surreal it all was. At the time, I brushed it off as an insane coincidence. But looking back, I'm pretty sure it was a glitch in the Matrix. Or maybe she was me in another life. Either way, I have witnesses that this happened, and I still can't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. Girl respawns on the bus. A while ago, I was riding a city bus, sitting in the middle section, facing the back. It was a quiet ride, mostly empty, just a few scattered passengers. At one point, a young woman, probably in her 20s, wearing headphones and carrying several shopping bags and a backpack, appeared from behind me. She took a spot in the standing area directly in front of me, even though there were plenty of empty seats. That was weird. She seemed weighed down with all her bags. Yet she stood there, balancing everything while talking non-stop on her phone. For 15 minutes, she remained in the same spot, shifting the weight of her bags, chatting away. Then, I watched her clearly as she moved toward the back door, stepped off the bus, and walked away down the sidewalk. I exhaled, relieved. Finally, some quiet. The bus kept moving. 10 minutes and a few stops passed, and I wasn't thinking about her anymore. Just another commuter going about her day. And then, bam. Like a glitch in reality, she reappeared. Same girl, same bags, same headphones. She emerged from behind me again, took the exact same standing spot, and continued her same phone conversation, as if nothing had changed. It was like I had been reset to an earlier point in time, like when you die in a video game and respawn at the last checkpoint. I sat there, stunned, unable to wrap my head around what just happened. I wanted to figure it out, to make sense of it, but before I could dwell on it too long, my stop came up. I got off the bus, still trying to process what I had just witnessed. I have no idea how or why she pulled off that stunt. All I know is that for a moment, it genuinely felt like reality glitched. My daughter appeared in my locked room. This happened about 3 years ago when my daughter was around 4 years old. That night, I had a babysitter over while I got ready to go out. I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and locked it behind me. I even remember double-checking to make sure it was fully shut and locked. A few minutes passed as I was in the bathroom, getting ready. Then, I heard my daughter at the door. She was jiggling the handle, trying to get in, calling for me. I called back, telling her I'd be out in a minute. I figured she was just being impatient, as kids often are. Then, maybe a minute later, I stepped out of the bathroom and froze. My daughter was inside the room, just standing there. The door was still closed, still locked. I never heard it open, never heard it shut. My stomach dropped. "How did you get in here?" I asked, my voice uneasy. She just stared at me, looking as confused as I was, and simply said, "I don't know." A chill ran through me. I immediately went to check the door. Locked, just as I had left it. Still unsettled, I went to ask the babysitter if she had seen anything, if maybe my daughter had somehow slipped in unnoticed. But she was in another room the entire time, and had no idea what I was talking about. To this day, I still can't explain it. Maybe there's a logical explanation, but if there is, I haven't been able to find one. And honestly, that's what freaks me out the most. Still confused. On my daughter's birthday, I had to run an errand to pick up a balloon inflator that a friend had kindly offered us. My wife and I had talked about it that morning, but we never settled on a time, and she never gave me the friend's address, so I completely forgot about it. Later that day, I decided to get some planting pots to prepare for the party. After searching Facebook Marketplace, I found someone giving away 10 nice pots at a good price. We agreed on a pickup, and I entered the seller's address into my car's navigation. For some reason, I was convinced the house number was 22. I pulled up, walked to the door, and knocked. To my surprise, my friend answered. She looked just as confused as I felt. We hadn't arranged a pickup time for the balloon inflator, and yet, here I was, standing at her doorstep. She was in the middle of a video call and told me to wait a moment. That's when I hesitated and quickly asked, "Are you living with Lucy?" Lucy being the person selling the pots. She frowned. "Lucy, no, wait a minute." I walked back to my car and checked my phone. The actual address was 26, not 22. Just as I was processing this mistake, my friend stepped out with the balloon inflator in hand. "I didn't know you were coming to pick this up. Hope it's useful. Say hi to your wife and enjoy the party." Still baffled, I asked again, "Do you know Lucy?" She laughed. "Oh, Lucy is my neighbor." At that point, I had to explain. "Look, I actually came to pick up some plant pots, not the inflator. I wasn't planning on getting it today, and I didn't even know your address." She looked at me, utterly bewildered. I was equally confused. Then, I knocked on Lucy's door, explained what had just happened, and honestly, nobody could make sense of it. This city has at least 100,000 houses. Google Maps had no knowledge of my plans, my wife's conversation, the inflator, or the pots. And yet, somehow, I ended up exactly where I needed to be. To this day, I'm still confused. The empty place. It was just a normal night out. My husband and I decided to grab dinner at a restaurant we had never been to before. It wasn't anything fancy. Just a small, family-run place tucked into a quiet part of town. When we arrived, the parking lot was empty. No cars, no people. We even hesitated for a moment, wondering if the place was open. But as we stepped inside, a waiter greeted us immediately and led us to a table. The restaurant was completely silent except for soft background music playing through the speakers. Not a single customer. We joked about having the whole place to ourselves, ordered our food, and started eating. Maybe it was just an off night. Maybe they just weren't very popular. And then, It happened. Halfway through our meal, the door swung open. Then again, and again. Within minutes, people started pouring in. Couples, families, large groups, one after another. The quiet, empty restaurant was suddenly buzzing with conversation and movement. Waiters, who had previously been standing idly, were now scrambling to take orders and serve tables. We just sat there, staring at each other. "Where did they all come from?" my husband whispered. I turned toward the windows. Nothing. We had parked right in front. There had been no line outside, no approaching crowds, just emptiness. And yet, the restaurant was now completely packed. Every single table was filled. The same restaurant that, just minutes ago, had been entirely ours, was now overflowing with people. We finished our meal in uneasy silence. Neither of us could shake the feeling that something about this was wrong. A timing fluke? A strange coincidence? Maybe. But as we walked back to our car, my husband muttered, "That felt off." I nodded, because deep down we both knew. It wasn't just weird, it felt like reality had glitched. I've lost my grip on this plane of existence. Driving home from work today, I saw something. At the corner of an intersection, there stood a figure, human-shaped, dressed normally for the weather. But something was wrong. It wasn't walking. It wasn't standing still, either. It was shifting, glitching, about a foot to either side of where its body should be, vibrating in a way that made my stomach drop. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. That's when I noticed. It had no face. Its head was nothing but static, like the black and white fuzz of an old television screen. At first, I thought maybe it was wearing a mask, but no. The more I focused, the more I realized that there was nothing there. Just that buzzing void where its face should be. Then, the car in front of me slammed on their brakes. I barely stopped in time, my heart pounding as I gripped the wheel. They must have seen it too. For a moment, we both just sat there, feet away from whatever it was, and it was staring right at us. I can't tell you how long we sat there, frozen in place, time stretching in an unnatural way. Then, without warning, it was gone. Not walked away, not faded, gone. I looked at the driver ahead of me. They were staring back at me, their face blank, their expression mirroring my own shock and confusion. Then, a car honked behind me, snapping me back into reality. Without a word, we both pulled away from the intersection and drove off. But I haven't been able to shake the feeling that something fundamental in reality itself slipped for a moment. That I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. And that maybe it saw me too. People keep literally running into me in wide open spaces. I moved from New York City to Tirana, Albania about a month ago, and ever since, something bizarre keeps happening. People keep walking straight into me. It's not just once or twice. It's happened dozens of times. The footpaths here are wide, 15 feet or more. I'll be walking, minding my own business, and see someone way off in the distance, easily 100 feet away. They'll be on the far left or the center of the path, nowhere near me. I'm walking in a perfectly straight line, predictable, easy to avoid. Yet, somehow, by the time they get within 5 or 10 feet, they've drifted directly into my path. One of us has to step aside. Or worse, we collide. It's happened from behind too. I'll be the only person on a huge, empty path, and suddenly, a jogger will come up and run right into me. The strangest part? The moment I started thinking about how weird this was, the exact moment I decided I was going to write a post about it, a little girl came running from a perpendicular path and smacked straight into me. It's like I'm a magnet, like I have some kind of invisible gravitational pull. Or worse, it's like a video game where every NPC is programmed to snap to the player character's location. I know this isn't just a cultural difference or spatial awareness issue, or even an attempted pickpocketing scheme. This is something else, something subconscious, something I can't explain. Has anyone else ever experienced this? Because after weeks of it happening over and over again, I'm starting to feel like I'm the only real person in the simulation. Looped myself. Many years ago, I attended a training seminar for a new job at the Washingtonian, a large motel and conference center off I-270 in Gaithersburg, Maryland, just outside DC. When I arrived, the parking lot was nearly full, so I had to park far out near the freeway. As I stepped out of my rental car, something caught my attention. A silver Porsche 914 was approaching on the highway. For some reason, I couldn't look away. I watched it intently, tracking its movement until it disappeared into the distance. It wasn't a Ferrari or any particularly exotic car, yet my focus was locked onto it in a way I couldn't explain. I distinctly remember feeling puzzled. Why was I so drawn to this one car? Eventually, I shrugged it off and went about my day. Still, the moment stuck with me. In the months that followed, I started noticing Porsche 914s more and more, almost like they were suddenly appearing everywhere. The fascination grew to the point that, eventually, I bought one. 3 years later, I was driving into DC from Pennsylvania, now the owner of my own silver Porsche 914. As I cruised down I-270, I spotted the Washingtonian sign. And then, I saw myself, standing next to a rental car in the parking lot, watching me drive by. It was me. I felt a shock, like touching live electricity. It wasn't just someone who looked like me. It wasn't my mind playing tricks. I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was watching myself from 3 years ago. My hands tightened on the wheel. My pulse pounded. The overwhelming sense of déjà vu locked me in place. I had to see for myself. At the next exit, I veered off the freeway and doubled back toward the Washingtonian. I pulled into the lot, scanning frantically for myself. But the parking lot was nearly empty. No rental car, no sign of anyone standing where I had just seen myself minutes ago. I parked and stepped out, walking to the exact spot where I remembered standing years before. Nothing. No one. Just the distant hum of traffic from I-270. A strange unease settled in my stomach. I knew what I had seen. It wasn't a trick of the light or a mistaken identity. It was me, watching myself. Some weird causal loop had connected my past and future self, bending time in a way that shouldn't be possible. I stood there for a long moment, trying to make sense of it. But there were no answers, just the eerie, nagging feeling that I had witnessed something I was never meant to see. The door changed colors. My fiancé and I live about an hour apart, so I spend every Wednesday night and almost every weekend at her apartment. Since the very first time I visited, I've always remembered her front door being white. That's not something you just misremember, right? Last Saturday night, we decided to stay in and order food through DoorDash. When the food arrived, the Dasher sent a photo of the delivery. We both looked at the picture and immediately said, "That's not the right place. The door doesn't look like that." The door in the photo was black. Confused, my fiancé even started filing a report for a missing order, because clearly that food wasn't at our door. But something felt off. I decided to step outside to check if the Dasher had left it at the wrong apartment. And there it was, our order, sitting right in front of our black door. A door that we both remembered being white. We just stood there, staring at it. Neither of us had any explanation. Neither of us had ever noticed it as anything but white before. And yet, here it was. Black. Had it always been black? Had our memories somehow altered at the same time? Or did something change reality without us realizing it? We still can't explain it.